Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a podcast about all things geek. Favorite little-known characters, that's the topic for today. If you're a new listener, welcome to the show. We release new episodes every Wednesday. Quick reminder to everyone, you can make topic suggestions in the comments section. Thanks for listening. All right, fellas, we have a topic suggested by a listener. Jay writes, how about your favorite underrated heroes or villains and why? That's a great idea, Jay. Let's do it. I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
I'm Tommy Smithereens.
And I'm Clifton.
All right. Jay, thank you for your suggestion. Of course, thanks for listening. Who wants to start?
I was torn between this particular character because the more I thought about it, the more it's like, why? My first choice was going to be Animal Man. Just because it had a phenomenal one by
Grant Morrison.
Thank you, Grant Morrison. But how much more different is Animal Man than Vixen? Or isn't that the same power setting?
Kind of. I mean, Animal Man, like the thing where he tied into the anthropomorphic field, kind of like the green or the red. I think they actually call it the red eventually. But she had I think there's a couple issues of Morrison's run where he tries to explain how it all works. But in his origin originally, it was something to do with aliens. Like he was visited by aliens, and therefore he was able to tap into different animal fields and therefore become animal, have their animal abilities, where she has like that Tantu totem, which is more like a magic thing.
Yeah.
So, but no, Animal Man's a great choice.
Yeah. Yeah. But my choice is Animal Man because ever since that phenomenal run, they have not revisited that character in that same reverence. And no one has tried to come close to it. It's like it's the pure opposite of of a Moore story, in which everybody tries to give their take on it. But in this one, it's like, nope.
They tried one time. They tried a little bit in New 52 when they gave it to Jeff Lemire. And I think that was an instance of them trying to capture the magic of what Morrison had done, 25 years ago? 25 years before at that point. But yeah.
Yeah, that was the only place that I was going to mention too, where I thought that they had tried. Because I think they make him, I know there's at least a crossover with him and Swamp Thing and then like Justice League Dark. But I haven't read it. I didn't really care. I tried to look at the first issue and I didn't really care for the art. And it was tough. I found it tough to get into, so I didn't read it. And I didn't think the costume change. I thought it was one of those costume changes that didn't need to change. I think the orange and blue costume he's had from damn near the beginning is pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, I would have gone with Animal Man and had him on my list. But yeah, for me it was for me it was that Morrison run. I remember reading it. I read it from issue 1 all the way through Morrison's run, all the way to the end. And there's just so much
recommended to you, or did you just pick it up because you liked Morrison, or
it was
you were
a DC
curious?
It was a DC character that I knew like in the background, like he was part of the Forgotten Heroes, quote unquote. Like there was a group it's in DC Comics Presents. It's back to back Forgotten Heroes and then Forgotten Villains. And he was one of those heroes that I kind of knew. Like all I knew was he was the man with the animal powers.
Right.
He guest starred around. Like I don't think he even has an issue of like DC Comics Presents or Brave and the Bold that he teams up with anybody. But people remembered him, and I remember the name, so I thought, okay. And years later, I think it's in Super Gods, or maybe it was in an interview. Morrison said that for fun, what he'll do is he'll just take a DC character and create a modern day, just for fun. He'll write down a modern day origin and mess with the character, and it's really apparent if you've ever read like Doom Patrol or Animal Man or any of that sort of stuff by Morrison at DC, because you can tell where he's like, oh, I like this idea from where it was in the Silver Age or wherever, and now I'm going to play with it and change it around. But yeah, Animal Man's a great character. I think Animal Man. What was the shorts? Didn't we get for a while during
DC Nation?
Yeah, DC Nation. We got those shorts with was it Weird Al as Animal Man?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I think other than that, I don't think we've gotten him like in animation, right?
No, that's correct.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, in Justice League Unlimited, anytime they play with that type of power set, it's Vixen usually, and like Buana Beast in a couple of episodes.
Yeah,
right.
And Buana Beast crossed over in Morrison's run of Animal Man because they have similar powers.
Yeah, yeah. Those are some horrific issues.
Yes, they are.
And Morrison was doing Animal Man around the same time he was doing Doom Patrol, and a lot of his Doom Patrol ideas are being used in the Doom Patrol series currently on HBO Max.
Oh, yeah.
That's all from that same time period. And in the Animal Man, I mean, he was definitely playing on the fact that Animal Man was a D-list character before he started playing with it. He took a character that was mostly forgotten and said, like, what fun stuff can I do with this? That nobody, like, I'm not going to be stepping on anybody's toes because nobody's attached to this character.
Yeah, the funny thing is, if you've ever read around the same time he was doing the comic Zenith, he'd either just done it or was doing it with Steve Yao.
Yeah.
And there's similarities. I mean, obviously, Buddy Baker's not the same character as Zenith. Zenith is sort of an a-hole who happens to have powers. But Buddy's much more an environmentalist. He's a vegan. You know, it's one of those things where I remember even reading it for the first couple issues is the part where Buddy's like, yeah, I'm going to wear this jacket. Because it was kind of an 80s thing to do for superheroes to wear jackets, and almost even the 90s if you get like to Jack Knight Starman.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But he's like, I'm just wearing this because I get cold when I'm flying and I need someplace to put my keys. You know, and that's not something that a lot of superheroes, I think they deal with in Superman. Superman's got that pouch in his cape that he can put his Clark Kent clothes into. Or it used to be, but it's one of those things where they don't really deal with that. That was kind of a novel idea back then when he had Buddy say that.
So describe his power set because it's been a while since I've read Morrison's run, which I love. It's great. If you guys haven't read it, check it out. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
But was there a component to his powers where like proximity was a factor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, it was one of the things where it has to be something that's in the same, like he basically puts out a field and then he can draw from that field any animals that are within it.
Right.
So if
any of the characteristics an animal has or ability an animal has, he can do
mimic
himself.
It. Yeah. So basically, like if you fight him in a zoo, you might as well quit because he's going to kick your ass. But I mean, there's some really cool ideas that Morrison does, and I don't want to give it away if you haven't read it. But it's one of those things where there's some stuff that happens to him. And you're like, how in the world is he going to get out of it? Like it's a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. And Buddy being resourceful uses the animal powers around him to get through it. So
I remember what you're talking about. It's great. I'm not.
It is great.
It's an awesome issue.
In the series 52, which was 2007, 2008,
right?
Which also had involvement from Grant Morrison, among others, like Greg Rucka, Mark Waid, and
Jeff Johns was one of the other ones.
Yeah. And in that, they do use Animal Man again and introduce something that would be very cool for him. I don't think it gets fully utilized, but they send him into space with Adam Strange and Starfire in the series.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, right.
And like the seed of the idea there that's really cool is that now he's going to be in the field of alien animals. Mm-hmm. So he'd be utilizing powers for animals he's never seen before, just because he's in proximity in space to them.
Right.
Which I thought was a great idea that doesn't get fully capitalized on, but it's an excellent idea for the character.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, it's a fun one. Jeff Lemire is a good pick, I think, for somebody to get a shot at it. But yeah, I don't remember why I never went along with it. It was just one of those that it didn't have a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
I'd heard good things about it. My biggest thing was, like I said, I picked up the issue and for whatever reason, I didn't like, there was enough changes. There was enough change with other New 52 stuff where I just wasn't willing to get on board with something like Animal Man, where I can point to a seminal run by Morrison and go like, no, I don't know if anyone's going to really do it better. And I didn't care for the art of the costume. So that was my biggest problem with it.
No, it's a good pick. Good pick, Tommy. All right. Who's up next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
So I was looking through and I was looking at, and I don't even know if this is like a C-list or a D-lister, but I was thinking of, there's a villain that I love at DC and it doesn't get used enough because I think, as the kids say, he's a little too OP. Mm-hmm. For me, I love the composite Superman.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The composite Batman Superman.
Yeah. If you've ever seen him, he's right down the middle. He's half Batman, half Superman, and he's got a green, like his flesh is green. And it's one of those things where I remember as a kid, I had picked up I'm talking like 5 or 6. I got a Batman Family, and it had this backup story where it was a reprint of his first appearance in World's Finest. So you're talking like Superman, Batman, and Robin are going up against a composite Superman, and he knows their identities, and they can't figure out why. And like at every turn, composite Superman's destroying stuff. And if you don't know, the composite Superman has all of Superman's powers, all of Batman's like skill and detective work, as well as all of the powers of the Legion of Superheroes.
Right. Just cause. Okay.
Just cause.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason, But I mean, it's one of those things where he has like all of this stuff going on, and you know, it's a situation where he has so many things he can do. So he basically manhandles the world's finest team like it's nothing, and then sets himself up as basically going to be in charge. And I'm pretty sure it's my first introduction to Legion as a concept, because the Legion's like hardly in the issue.
Okay.
And the way that he gets his powers is kind of silly. So, but as a visual, I still, I love the character. I think the character is great. And outside of some world's finest appearances, I think he makes a couple appearances in, there might have been one attempt by like Joe Kelly or Joe Casey to try and bring him back as a composite. It didn't really work out. It didn't have the same feel, the same cachet. But he makes one appearance outside of that stuff in the animated. It's in what is
Booster
it?
Gold. Booster Gold episode.
The Justice League Unlimited
greatest
Booster Gold
greatest
episode.
story never told.
Yeah. Where basically they're fighting Mordru off camera basically. And Mordru takes the Trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman and smushes them all together. And they look like the composite Superman, and then it opens his mouth and he has Wonder Woman's voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, it's you find out, I'll spoil it for you because it's, at this point, I believe it's like a 60-year-old story. But the composite Superman is just this guy, Joe, like his name is Joe Meach, and he's basically the janitor at a Superman museum. And there's a gift of statuettes from the future that's composed of this metal that gets struck by lightning, and it transfers all the powers of the. What's funny about it is it's one of those predictive moments by the Legion, where the Legion all had to sit for their portraits, like basically like when we 3D scan actors for their action figures.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same sort of thing here, where they get scanned, and this machine somehow takes part of their image, but at the same time takes some of their powers and transfers it into these statues. And long story short, like I said, it gets struck by lightning and he gains their powers.
It's composite Batman Superman, I'm convinced, is dreamt up by like a 7-year-old.
Oh yeah.
I mean?
Again, it makes on paper it sounds insane, but the visual of him like turning invisible and reading their minds and throwing lightning bolts and heat vision and can stretch himself like not Elastic Lad, but somebody in the Legion can shrink, can grow giant stuff. I mean, there's all these. He's got everything. So for the three of them trying to find a way to outwit him was, it was fun to read. So
okay,
that's my choice. That's my D or C lister. I would probably say he's closer to a D lister, but I'll go with the villain known as Composite Superman.
Okay, Composite Superman. Interesting choice.
Thanks.
All right, Clifton, who do you got?
I like Composite Joker Batman from the Prince video for Bat Dance.
Sure, that's where that came from too.
It's a very similar design style.
It's a good one.
if you're gonna go with a smile.
Great guitar solo.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for real, I'm sticking with another villain.
Okay.
And I'm going with Marvel villain. It's somebody who's gotten some play over the years, but then fades back into obscurity, and that is Arcade.
Okay.
Like, a lot of people, if you were an X-Men fan in the 90s, you might be familiar with him, because I think around then was when he was getting some play again. Mm-hmm. And he did just within the past few years as well, after Jonathan Hickman's Secret War.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some people would describe him as kind of Marvel's Riddler in a way.
Sure.
But he is basically just an assassin. But he's an assassin that's an evil genius and torments his victims through these elaborate games that used to be presented as like giant board games or stuff like that.
It's Murder World, right?
Yeah, Murder World is always what he called his like amusement world, kind of like Running Man a little bit.
Yeah.
And the introduction of Arcade and Murder World was in Marvel Team Up number 65.
It's a great one.
Which was by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. So they're the creators of Arcade.
Yes.
That issue is also the first American appearance of Captain Britain.
Yes.
Where he teamed up Spider-Man and they take on Arcade. And then go into Murder World the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a great character. I always liked Arcade. I always thought he was a lot of fun. And there was one thing I liked was the telltale sound. There was like a sound effect whenever the heroes would get taken into like, it looked like a garbage truck, but it really wasn't a garbage truck. It was basically a conveyance to get the heroes to Murder World. But there was always this like noise that was a sound effect. that you knew, like, oh, wait a minute, that's not really a real garbage truck in New York. It's Arcade. So, but yeah, that was that. I know he was. I think the last appearance that he had in Marvel was after Avengers Academy. It had something to do with the kids from Avengers Academy, and I want to say the Runaways.
Okay.
And basically, it was kind of a version of Murder World, but it was more like Battle Royale.
Right.
And it was one of the things where a lot of people were kind of pissed off because they didn't want to see characters that they loved.
Oh, I remember. That was the Dennis Hopeless book, right?
Yeah. And
with like the Battle Royale like symbol as its symbol, like the actual symbol from the manga Battle Royale.
Right. Yeah. It was very much a rip from that.
Yeah.
That people were just kind of like, nope, don't want this.
Right.
Don't want to see my teenage heroes in this situation. I never read it, so I have no idea if it's good or not, but that was the last time I remember Arcade being mentioned.
Okay.
Another thing about Arcade that I always thought was funny was when Byrne leaves Uncanny, there's a point with Doom where Doom is dealing with the X-Men as well as Arcade. And at one point, Arcade strikes a match on Doom's faceplate to light his cigarette. And John Byrne was so mad about this that later on in Fantastic Four, there's an issue that's devoted just to Doom, and Doom's talking, like, basically checking in with his Doom bots. And he notices that there's a scratch or something on the faceplate, and so he asks the robot to recount what happened, and Doom destroys the robot as a result. Because the idea was it was never Doom to begin with; it was always a Doom bot,
right?
Okay, because Doom would never let Arcade strike a match on his face,
right? So he had to retcon it out of existence.
Yes, absolutely.
I was always perplexed by the character Arcade, though. I mean. I get that he's an assassin, but who's paying this man?
Sadists?
Yeah, but no, I always wondered, whoever wanted, like, the X-Men or whatever character or Spider-Man that he wanted dead, like, they never show who paid him to do it. Maybe I'm missing a step or something. That's why I always thought I'd rather him be the Riddler, just a kooky guy who wants to bring trouble to somebody he hates.
But he started carrying grudges after a point. And then he was just wanting to torment people.
I think a lot of it also is the fact that, he had a reputation before that of being like, he basically got his person, whoever he was supposed to get. And then, you take on enough superheroes, they don't lose. So therefore his reputation started to suffer for the fact that he wasn't completing contracts, whoever he was being contracted for.
Right. Okay. We have a note from our engineer who said that Arcade was actually the main villain during a Spider-Man arc last year, so 2019, where he helped Craven take animal-themed characters on his hunt. So
okay.
Yeah, that was part of the Nick Spencer run.
Yeah, this is Nick Spencer's run, it sounds like. So I was gonna say, I've never read an Arcade comic in my life. But that one I'll check out because I do like Nick Spencer Spider-Man stuff. I'm just, as with all things, I'm behind.
Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Fun choice, though.
Yeah, Murder World was like an evil games show, basically. It's like Evil Double Dare. Like, that's how he would kill people.
I'm surprised they never teamed up Arcade with Mojo.
I feel like that had to have happened, especially like in the Alan Davis Claremont days. I'd be surprised if it didn't happen, but
I mean, I could be wrong about that one, but I would think the idea of Arcade being like, "Hey, let's televise this," and Mojo being like, "Absolutely,
right,
let's do it." So
it's a fun team up.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So let me write that one.
Right, there you go.
throw in the X Babies because
of course
you got to.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna do. She's little known to people outside of comics now, but not for too much longer. And I'm going to say Kate Bishop, who is the second Hawkeye.
Okay.
I absolutely love this character, and I think everybody else is going to love this character too once the Hawkeye show comes out, whenever, 2022, 2023, whatever that's going to be. But what I love about her is I first encountered her in the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run. And what's so cool about her to me is that, like, she has a camaraderie with Hawkeye as her mentor, the Cliff Barton Hawkeye. And at the same time, she looks at him as kind of like he's kind of a screw up and kind of a failure and this and that and everything. But what I love about her is that, like, she's every bit like him in every way also.
Okay.
It just doesn't see it, the Kelly Thompson run that Marvel put out, I think it was part of Marvel Now. I want to say that's a really, really great book, especially because that's when she goes to LA and becomes a private eye. And so it is flexing some cool, Philip Marlowe muscles as well. And the art's amazing. Artists are Leonardo Romero,
David Aja on the Fraction run.
Yeah, David Aja on the Fraction run, and then the Kelly Thompson run was Leonardo Romero and Julian Totino Tetsaco. I'm saying that wrong, but sorry. But yeah, no, she's an awesome character. I love her.
Yeah, I read her in Young Avengers, and then I read her some in the Matt Fraction Hawkeye book, both of which I like a lot. Young Avengers is pretty great with the Alan Heinberg, right? It's the writer.
Chung the art.
Yeah, that's who it is. Thank you, Clifton. I couldn't remember. But yeah, it's a great, both of those books are good. There's a lot of fun. If you like Hawkeye at all, I look forward to the Hawkeye series whenever it comes out, and the two of them together, I think it should be cool.
Yeah.
Also, the idea that
she's relatively new, also, right? Like she's like, what year if you had to guess, what year would you say?
Early 2000.
Yeah.
If I had to guess for sure, I'd say early 2000s is when she first appears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the Young Avengers series from Ellen Heinberg and Jim Chung started in 2005.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, so that's where she first appears with like Iron Lad and was it Patriot and Hulkling
and Wiccan,
right?
And Wiccan and Speed, yeah, all those characters, which I think we're going to get a heavy dose of if we ever get any more Marvel stuff. Whenever we get around to having those again, I think we'll have a fair amount of those. There's rumors that we're going to get.
Yeah, they seem to be sneaking a few characters in at a time because grown-up Cassie could be somebody.
Right.
Yep. All those kids are supposedly supposed to be introduced in a lot of the Marvel TV stuff, but we'll see. We haven't seen
exactly.
Yet,
so she could end up being a really important character down the line, I think.
Oh yeah.
For sure. So we see Cassie grown up. In what is that? Endgame, right? Yeah. But Kate Bishop's great. Check out the Kelly Thompson run. I love it. One of the best things I read last year.
Cool.
Yeah. So who went first? Tommy, you're up.
Oh well, I'm sorry for this, Clifton, because I recently was aware of how much you love this character. So I'm sure at one point probably made it. Well, it probably wouldn't make it on your list because you much love the character. But I was weirded out researching this topic, and it just blew me away because the more I thought about it, the more weirder it got. And that person is Moon Knight.
Okay.
Which essentially Batman dressed in white. I mean, he has the resources.
Right.
He has the visage. He's cool. He's a detective, world-class fighter, an official Avenger. And his personality disorder makes him that much more interesting. And then on top of that, he has like Egyptian history linked to his character as well. No matter what they give this character, it doesn't pop.
Right.
They give him everything, except the kitchen sink, but for some reason, it just doesn't spark the love given to the many facets of this character. It's insane how much they've made this character to be bigger, but yet, however, it's just 5 feet from stardom.
Right. No, yeah. I was gonna say, I think this character's time is coming too. I think we're very close.
Well, there's a Disney Plus show in the works, so more people could know. He had a fairly big following at the time in the late 70s, early 80s. But that was his heyday. And then after that, like he'd pop up and the comics would sell, but it was never A-list. And there's an interesting story I heard Bill Sienkiewicz tell last year when he was at New York Comic Con, because he talked about his career started by him emulating Neil Adams when he was a young artist starting out. And like it's just who he emulated. It was the artist he loved. And when he went to Marvel and they were like, oh, like you draw like Neil Adams, like we got this character we want to make like Batman. We're going to put you on it because you can draw like Neil Adams. And this was right after the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil Batman run of the 70s. And so that's how he got being the artist on Moon Knight. But then if you follow the art of Bill Sienkiewicz, his art evolved very quickly to not be Neil Adams' art.
Right.
No.
So they put him on thinking he was going to be Neil Adams. And like he was kind of Neil Adams-ish for a time before he started evolving into his own thing and just goes off in this whole other direction. And like it really plays with the schizophrenia of Moon Knight. Like his style is so good. And that's where I think they kind of diverted from just being a Batman clone.
I am amazed by how popular this character gets, considering not much is done with him all that often, right? Like you said, Clifton, like he comes in ebbs and flows, right? Like he springs up every once in a while. Like for me, like he was a trading card. Like I had never in the 90s, I had never seen a Moon Knight comic book, right? Like on the stands ever, anything. He was just a cool looking character. But I remember like I guess it was 2014, 2015 when he got his own title and everything. Like I'm shocked how big a following he has online sometimes.
Yeah. And you're talking about the Warren Ellis, Declan Shalvey run.
Yeah, Warren Ellis. Yeah. Then did Brian Wood take over?
I think so.
After, where they put him in a suit.
Yeah, they put him in an all white suit, white mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
And long white limo.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, for me, he was much more of a straight up like superhero, and then I learned more about him as time went on. He was first introduced like when Tommy was saying the thing about him being Avenger. I first ran into him in West Coast Avengers during the Avengers travel through time. It's called the Cross Time Caper, and the Avengers end up in Egypt. And I say the Avengers, it's like Iron Man and Hawkeye and Wonder Man, Mockingbird, Tigra, all that group from them. Those characters,
the B team back then.
Basically, they were the B team. But they end up in ancient Egypt, and they get scattered. But there's a point where they need help, and they have to they basically are in the time of Rama-Tut, and it's kind of or they're in there around the time of when the Fantastic Four is there, as well as when Doctor Strange goes to that time. But they have to basically get a message back to the future, and part of it has to do with Moon Knight, and part of it has to do with Khonshu, the god that he's tied to,
right? Who saved his life in the desert when he was a mercenary.
Yeah. There's also a story that's fairly recent. Well, it's not recent, but it's in like I think it's Marvel Team Up. There's a weird story about Moon Knight where Moon Knight gets stuck in a water tower and can't get out. Like it's empty, but he can't. It's like in New York, and he in the heat, and he can't. And it's very bizarre because I thought of all the stuff that it just almost seemed like the person I can't remember who wrote it. I can't remember what issue it is. We have to look it up. But it's almost, it seemed for a character that the stuff that I had seen and knew about, because I remember there was a Baxter series with Moon Knight that I read also, but I can't remember the writer or the artist on it, but it was like early 90s.
So the whole issue, he's like just in an empty water tower, like trying to get out.
It starts off with like he gets, basically, and then the whole issue is him struggling to get out of this water tower.
This sounds cool. Like I'm laughing, but like I want to check it out.
So we'll have to look it up, and if I can find it, we'll put it in the comments. But yeah, it was just a bizarre. Like it just seemed very.
It'll be in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed very disrespectful to a character that had a pretty good following and it was pretty popular. I never really understood why he would end up in this water tower stuck. So that's my bit with Moon Knight. I've always liked the character.
Did John Byrne write this?
No, I don't think he did.
Okay.
But I'm with everyone else. I think he's a character that for whatever reason just can't get a proper break or can't get a proper push or whatever. Mm-hmm. And even in the early 90s, there was the push with Moon Knight with I think it was Stephen Platt was the artist.
Right. Yeah.
And people went crazy for that book because of the art, and like it was like, like anything in comics where it was overinflated price wise. Books were going, we're getting on the stands and going for 2 days later, going for $18 to $20. And it was just ridiculous. But I think the character himself has so much that he could draw from whether it's Egyptian history. And I think right now, I'm pretty sure within the last year or so that Jason Aaron in Avengers has done a fair amount with Moon Knight. But I haven't read them, so I don't know for sure. But I keep seeing like, the Fist of Khonshu, which is Moon Knight mentioned. So, have to check those out. But yeah, Moon Knight's a good choice. I like Moon Knight. Yeah,
his time's coming. Like, like I said, like he's popular. He's got a loud following, I'll say, at least.
Right.
So, and with the show coming.
Well, Frank, what you were referring to earlier was Power Man and Iron Fist number 87.
That's it.
In
Thank
which
you, Tony.
Moon Knight was on the trail of a criminal named Al Jordan. Al Jordan was fleeing to the top of the building on top of a water tower. They struggle and both go tumbling into the water tower. The problem is that Moon Knight wakes up at the bottom of the water tower and he's severely injured, his knee and shoulder, unable to jump and climb his way out of this trap.
Right. Okay.
And that's the setup for a Power Man and Iron Fist situation.
Gotcha.
I think that sounds cool. I say that unironically completely. Like I actually think that sounds like a cool story.
Yeah, it was one of those, like I said, it seemed very much at the time when I read it. I think I might have written a collection of Power Man and Iron Fist stuff, and I thought, well, I just thought it was odd. It's one of those stories that I think was trying to go a little too realistic, and I don't know if it maybe it was just me. It didn't land properly.
Yeah, I agree. So. It didn't.
All right. So, Frank, you're up next.
So my next one's kind of an odd choice, much like my first one. But I was kind of thinking about characters and thinking about characters I like and thinking about characters that basically got propelled. Like at one point they weren't that big a deal and all of a sudden they took off. And the character that I thought about was Deadpool. And I'm not choosing Deadpool. But
okay.
Because obviously Deadpool is, wildly popular because of the Ryan Reynolds movies and the comics and everything. And you throw a rock and you can't not find a Deadpool series out someplace.
Right.
But I was thinking about characters that might have, that if given the right push, were pretty similar.
Mm.
So I started thinking about Ambush Bug at DC.
Oh my God. I was nervous the whole time you were saying it.
Because honestly, with breaking the fourth wall and basically kind of being almost like a Bugs Bunny character, Ambush Bug fits that mold long before Deadpool does.
Yes, he does.
Sorry, dude.
No, it's okay.
But Ambush Bug is one of those characters that debuts back in 82 in DC Comics Presents number 52, and he's kind of pushed as like a sort of a serious, not real serious threat as a villain. He kind of like his basic deal is if he releases these bugs and then is able to teleport wherever they are. That's basically his shtick.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, he's kind of, like I said, it's kind of a serious, I think it's the issue itself is Superman and Cobra, or Superman and Doom Patrol. But like I said, it's Doom Patrol, the newer Doom Patrol. But he's kind of pushed as like this, semi-threat. And then the next time he appears, he's got this new personality, and I believe it's Superman and the Legion of Substitute Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets thrown in the future and has to, basically deal with them and with Superman. And it's almost a moment where like the worry is he's going to find out Superman's identity, and he's much more of the character we know him after that point. So it's kind of a weird diversion where he basically makes that change off camera someplace. I mean, it's not even played like he's like Joker crazy. It's just sort of like, he just sort of takes the piss out of everybody.
Right.
So and then again, I was thinking about outside of, say, the comics. What do we get him in Brave and the Bold, the animated?
Yeah. So that's why he was on my list, right? Because like he's a character that, like, admittedly I don't know a whole lot about, but like I first encountered him in that Brave and the Bold episode. He's in the series finale, an episode called Mightfall. And it's one of my favorite half hours of television ever.
Yeah.
Like it's if you're a TV fan and like, like the tropes, like the jump the shark tropes and stuff like that and everything, it is so the episode for you. And I just like that. Like just it's a really unique story and just a really fun way for that series, if you know what that show was like, to end. But I was like, what is this character? Like, like I remember being a little stunned that he was actually from something.
Right.
And you were telling me like, no, there's comics with him. What is this character?
It's kind of like, Keith Giffen takes him, basically takes him under his wing, and basically like the Legion Substitute issue, the Substitute Heroes issue of DC Comics Presents. I think it's like number 82, I think. Let me look real quick. But it's
I know you loaned it to me years ago.
Oh, it's 59. It's actually earlier than I thought. But yeah, you've read it. It's a great issue. It's him goofing around. There's the whole bit with the Substitute Heroes. It's basically he's Deadpool long before Deadpool without all the murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
basically. He has a couple of miniseries that Giffen does. There's a couple one shots after that. where he basically, does all the stuff that Deadpool does now, like traveling the multiverse and traveling the DC universe and
talks to the audience, knows he's a comic character, that sort of stuff.
Yep. Breaks the fourth wall all the time. All that stuff that Deadpool does now is totally what Ambush Book did, 20, 30 years ago. So, I think it's just I don't know what you would do with him, but I think you could have a lot of fun with the character. I don't know how DC would take him out of the books other than maybe something animated, but I think I would love to see Ambush Bug outside of the books. And I think, as a C or D quote unquote list character, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, he's a fun character. You need somebody with a fun take, I think, somebody who really loves it. But no, I mean, that Brave and the Bold episode is a nice introduction to him, voiced by Henry Winkler, Fonzie.
Yeah. At one point, I think one of the last places that I know of he showed up in the DCU is, I think it's before 52 and Flashpoint. He is a bartender on the island where the Doom Patrol's headquarters is, if I remember correctly. That's what his job was at the time. Mm-hmm. So, but again, it's a while ago. We're talking, a good 10 years ago. So I'm not sure if anyone's done anything with Ambush Bug in quite some time, but I think they should.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, Clifton, who you got?
I'm going to go with a childhood favorite, and that is Firestar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most will know from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where she was originated. She was originated for that show before she ever made it into the comics, and was presented in that show as a mutant and former member of the X-Men.
Okay.
And her name is Angelica Jones.
Mm-hmm.
She basically has fire powers. I mean, they're similar to Human Torches, I guess. She can shoot fire blasts. She can fly. She can generate flames. Pretty much all of that. And then later did appear in the comics, was introduced as a character in the New Warriors comic book in the, late 80s? If not 1990, sometime around that time period.
Right.
And then, she did have, before she was in New Warriors, she did have a 4-issue comic book miniseries of her own in the mid 80s at Marvel, but has never pops up every once in a while and just has never used that much. But I've always liked the character and always felt like they could do more with her, especially with the X-Men, where you can always have, you can never have enough X-Men. So just throw her in there too. Why not?
Yeah, when we did the shorty, we did our short episode on the 5 X-Men team. She was definitely part of my team.
Yeah, she's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was one of those ones that I thought that would be a great addition. I think, again, I agree with Clifton that they don't do enough with her. I think visually and from a nostalgia standpoint, she's really just not utilized. Kurt Busiek put her on his 90s Avengers team.
Okay.
And she was there. She and Vance Astrovic Justice. Right. They kind of graduate from New Warriors into being a like almost probation, like junior Avengers, but they're on missions and they do all sorts of stuff. So she's in that book for a while, but beyond that, they really haven't done anything more than one shots here and there with her.
Yeah.
No, she's a character. Another one I don't have a whole lot of interaction with in her because I was a little young for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Which I've caught here and there, though. She's a cool character. Does is Iceman a requirement for her? Is there something about the fire and ice playing off of each other? Is there something about their relationship that works, that gels? Or does she exist perfectly fine without him? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I think you don't need, I don't think necessarily you need him. I think it's I think they did it. I think they did it for the show just to balance it out. And they needed a girl character.
Right.
They needed someone female. But I've also seen production stuff where at one point she was called Heat Wave.
Got it. Okay.
And from a production standpoint, she looked a lot more like a less redheaded Mary Jane. That was kind of the design.
Right.
And then they switched it up to give her more of a distinctive look. So. Okay.
Yeah. I just didn't know if they were a package deal, if they were Rocksteady and Bebop. You know what I mean? You gotta have them together. It's that's the fan expectation. I mean, Well,
I mean, again, a lot of it has been, I know from the stuff that I've seen, a lot of times it's they'll pair them up. I think they paired them up in Ultimate Spider-Man. There was a version with Firestar and Iceman and Spider-Man, and then I think there's been stuff within regular continuity of the three of them get together. But other than the basis of the cartoon, there's not really anything in the books.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you have to have it. I think it's just that I think it's a nostalgia thing.
Okay.
So.
Very cool. All right. Well, so you took my number 2, Frank.
Oh, sorry.
It's tough being on the receiving end of this. Now I know how you guys feel. I'm gonna attempt to go just off the top of my head. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna say Our Man.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
This is for me. This is like I'm attached to the concept more than I am like the character specifically, like who's in the who's under the mask. You know what I mean? Is it Rex Tyler? Is that?
Yeah, there's Rex and there's Rick, and then there was the android.
It's just it's one of those things. So basically, the idea is that so he's a superhero, but he gets powers from taking a pill,
drugs,
and his powers are only good for an hour.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And we're gonna bring up Solo over here. So Mike Allred's Solo has a really, really great, fun Our Man story that I think we've talked about. Clifton, I know you've brought it up in a couple places.
In our very first episode.
Yeah, where it's Our Man basically like he thinks somebody's in trouble, he takes the pill, and then it ends up being, like it's a tickle fight that he's hearing.
Right. It was not a crime.
Yeah, it's nothing going on. So he's like, I got an hour to burn off my powers.
Isn't there like a scene of him holding up somebody's car while they're changing the tire or something?
He's just doing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such a fun issue. But no, I think he's a really fun character. Just the concept is I think lends itself to get played with in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like the character too. I think it's one of those things where I remember reading those old team ups between the JLA and the JSA, and there just was no analog for Our Man. He was kind of like his own thing. There was no, Earth 1 or Earth 2, or in this case, it would have been Earth 1 counterpart for him, like some of the other heroes.
Mm.
And the idea that, like you said, he's got to pop a pill in order to get the job done. It's kind of it's a funny thing to look at. When they did Infinity Inc. and they brought in his son Rick was kind of like, it's around the time of like Just Say No, and all drugs are bad. So therefore, this is, we have to examine what it means. Is he addicted to being Our Man? Is he addicted to the pills? And that kind of takes a lot of the the wonderment and fun out of it.
Right.
But I think if you treat it as such, you could basically get back to the original concept and not have it be such a bummer.
Yeah.
They did that with the Super Soldier Serum and Cap at the same time too.
Right.
Like, is Cap basically just on steroids?
Yes, I remember that too. Yeah, it's around the same time. I think of the same. The stories are.
It was.
Those are around the same time of each other.
But yeah, Rick Tyler, that version of Our Man is the one that's presented on the current TV show Stargirl.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Rex Tyler as well, but both of them. And Rick Tyler is the one we follow on the show.
Gotcha.
JSA getting a push.
Yeah.
They're focusing on JSA. Very cool. Very cool. All right.
So
our last round, really quick. So Tomby, who's your last one?
Again, so many to choose from. I was gonna go with Firestorm, but I feel like anytime you need a nuclear disaster or Chernobyl-like event, they bring him in, and then they'll kill him then, and he'll mess up everything up, and everybody has to help. So he's like a weird villainous character. I mean, not to say he's a villain per se, but whenever they need to bring him back is because they want things to get messed up, and he's a part of it. So I went with the Wasp.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
The Wasp has been the longest chairperson in the Avengers, second only to Cap.
Yeah.
She's gone through so many costumes, events as far as her husband's concerned, and come out under his shadow to be a better person. But yet, however, she shunts it to the side in order to make Ant-Man or Giant Man or Yellow Jacket or just Henry Pym a better character. She's proven herself time and time again. She's part of cataclysmic events in which she's changed things, or maybe her leadership is what brings people out. She's reformed a team on countless occasions. But yet, however, even the cinematic universe look at her as a casual person. And it's crazy because even in the cinematic universe, she's smarter than the current person who is Ant-Man. But yet, however, she's still not enough to take center stage.
Right.
She has all the potential of a great pivotal female character within the Marvel universe. But
she's so much more capable than Ant-Man in the
she's
movies.
so much more capable than even she's had the powers longer. She flies. She doesn't
she's
need
a better
assistance.
Fighter.
Everything about her is amazing.
Yeah.
And then she still gets second, if not third billing.
Yeah. Right.
I'd go with the Wasp, Jennifer Van Dyne, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
It is a good one.
I was gonna say she didn't really have like her own book. I mean, the only Wasp, like I think Wasp book has been either she's been teamed up with Ant-Man or like you said, Giant Man or whatever.
Until very recently, yeah. Until very recently.
The Wondrous Wasp, but that's Hank Pym's daughter. That's not. That's the daughter that he had with his first wife. So that's not even the same. It's not even Jan. So I think it's a really good choice, Tommy. The fact that I've been reading some of the old Roger Stern like 80s Avengers, and she's the chairperson then, and it's one of those things where it's interesting to watch after the aftermath of all this stuff, because it's right after the trial of Yellow Jacket and that whole thing, where basically Hank is getting kicked out of the Avengers for a lot of things, for just making some bad choices. He's having a lot of issues. He gets physically violent with her, and then tries to basically build a robot to attack his hearing with the Avengers. And then basically she saves him, and then he ends up going to jail because it looks like he's conspired with Egghead, the villain, to I think to like do something else, like commit a crime or something. But it's interesting to see like for her to come out of that, and she's still like this rock that everybody turns to, and she's in charge and she's leading the Avengers. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good choice.
Yeah, they even go as far as to imprint her thoughts into Jocasta, which essentially if you're talking about as far as robots concerned, a female vision.
Yeah, basically.
And even as a female vision, Zach, do you know who Jocasta is?
I know the idea of it.
Yeah, but that's my point. They even as a caricature of her, they still don't push her forward, even as make her a super strong intergalactic robot. Nope, not enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good choice. It's a fun.
I like it.
All right, Frank, who's your last one?
The last one I was trying to think of villains that I think deserve a better push. That should have gotten more. We should have seen more of them. They're kind of out there, and then one note, and then it's over. I always liked the Absorbing Man, Crusher Creel.
Okay.
I thought it was one of those things where, especially in where he first appears, he appears in Thor. The idea that Thor is fighting basically a guy with a wrecking ball or a ball on a chain, and then he gets powers and is able to absorb whatever he touches. Would have been cool to see in a Thor movie, and I think the best that we got out of him being live action was he's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, right.
Yeah, season 2 opener.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, which was fine, but it's not the same thing as like seeing him as a major Thor villain like he should have been.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think from the Hulk or something.
Yeah, or fighting the Hulk, or I mean, at one point in the 80s with I think it's David Michelini and with I think Burns on the issue. It's a couple issues. He takes on the entire Avengers. I think there's plenty of things you could do with this character, and because he's not the smartest, tool in the shed, he doesn't get pushed that much. I think there's some good stuff that you could do with him from a standpoint of being a villain, but generally he's regulated to being like a threat for an issue or two, and then he goes away. So
he seems to be one that's to me sort of like the Superman bad guy Parasite, where like there's the potentiality for him to be super powered up and to be kind of a bigger threat than he is. But he screams like such a perfect like first act, like opening James Bond fight for an Avengers movie, right? Like
sure.
Yeah. Like the Batroc fight in Winter Soldier. Like he's so perfect for like that type of scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you could make it entire. I mean, that thing about him is, I think there's not a lot of like, there's nothing to really hang on him. I think from like an emotional standpoint, and anything that you do hang on him would be kind of forced.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's one of those things where the only place I think you might see him is depending what they do with She-Hulk, because She-Hulk is known for fighting, was it Titania?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
From she first appears in Secret Wars, and then they get together, and they're a villainous couple for a long, long time. So it might be one of those things where they might bring him back, or they might recast him as a different actor or whatever. But it's one of those things where that's the only place I think he might pop up. I would love to see him in Avengers Open. I think that would be really cool as well. But I'm not holding my breath, but I've always liked the character. I've always liked the visual. So
yeah, he's a fun visual. It'd be cool for like Michael Chiklis or somebody. Yeah,
sure.
It's just off the top of my head. Anyway,
right.
Clifton, your turn.
I'm going to go with a character that's visually a little similar to Absorbing Man, but I'm going with a DC character now instead of my others have been Marvel characters, and this is Metamorpho.
Okay, nice.
It was a Silver Age character from DC Comics. First appeared in The Brave and the Bold number 57 back in 1965.
Mm.
And he was a adventurer of sorts. He was like he was like a celebrity in his day of known for doing stunts and going on adventures like Indiana Jones style adventures, and was famous for it as is in his normal identity, which is Rex Mason, and then gets double crossed when he's basically discovering somebody's like some ancient tomb's jewels. And gets double crossed where somebody, his employer, who's also the father of his girlfriend.
Right. Simon Stagg.
If I remember right, double crosses him and leaves him for dead after stealing the jewels that he finds in the tomb. But the tomb is magic and conveys on him the power of the elements. So after that, he survives and has basically elemental control for all different sorts of elements.
Right. He's an awesome visual. And I remember, Clifton, you went through like a Metamorpho phase.
Yeah, I was reading
a couple of years ago where you were telling me like the action's like really cool in this Silver Age stuff.
Yeah, like he jumps out of a plane into a speeding car in his first appearance when he's still a human.
It sounds awesome. It's so great.
Yeah, they were over the top action for a while. And then like the ideas were just crazy. Everything they presented was so crazy in those early books.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't read as many of his early appearances, but I read him like in an Outsiders, and I read him what's another one? He was in like Justice League Europe. I've always loved the character. I think the character, like you said, visually is really strong.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where I'm trying to think outside of, I mean, he's in Justice League, right? We get the two-parter where he's friends with Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he becomes Metamorpho, and then he's in is it the Batman he's in?
He's in so many cartoons and yet still is like really unknown.
Yeah, did he make it into Beware the Batman? Because they were setting up a lot of Outsider stuff in that.
Yeah, he's in Beware the Batman. He's in Young Justice now.
That's what I'm thinking of.
He was in Brave and the Bold. Also, like, I mean, he's popped up a couple of times here and there, and yet every time I see him, it's like I've forgotten about him completely. Right. Before I'm like, oh yeah, like Metamorpho's a thing. Like Young Justice, a fun take too. Where you know it's a play on him, and yet also they get you the real like classic take in the same time, like all in the same episode. They get like a little nod to it. It's cool. But yeah, good pick. I like Metamorpho. So going with the adventurer theme, I'm kind of in the similar vein, but not one person. They're separate people. I'm going to say the Challengers of the Unknown.
See, they were on my list at one point too. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Again, like Our Man, it's a like this is a concept for me, which I love, like more than any of the characters themselves. But basically, they're a group of adventurers. So you have like Ace Morgan's like the test pilot, and Professor Haley's like the brains of the operation and everything, and then you have Rocky, who's the and he's depicted it differently in a few versions. Like he's traditionally like a boxer, right? But he's also, but in some cases, some versions, he's been like a triathlete. He's been like a wrestler or stuff like that. And then and then there's blanking on his name, Red Ryan, right? And he's sort of like the Super Dave, like stuntman, right? Like the Evil Knievel. And what I love about the concept is that like it's really flexible, right? And the unknown, like the goalpost for that will always move as technology advances and as science advances and stuff like that. So there's always to be stories to be told with them, right? And And so I just really like that. And like, there's more mysteries to be done, like as we make new discoveries in physics and stuff like that. But they can also sort of be like whoever. Like they don't necessarily have to be those characters. You can kind of plug in anybody who has like a skill into that world. You know?
Yeah, I've always liked this concept as well. I always like to have a soft spot for the challenges and the unknown. But yeah, they almost made my list. It was one of the things where I was thinking of just characters that I thought deserve a bigger push. But I think I think you need somebody because again, they're another one that have had numerous attempts at trying to recapture what was popular about them in, say, like the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, but very recently. Scott Snyder did a miniseries, which I was very excited about. Snyder's not necessarily like a box office draw for me in every case, but I like sort of like his horror books and stuff like that. And and so I thought like this was going to be kind of a fun book for him. I've read the first issue and he put weight on sort of like the idea of like borrowed time.
Okay.
Right. You know what I mean? So, so basically like the setup for the original Challengers of the Unknown is that like they all survive like a plane crash together. Right. And then it's the idea that like that we were supposed to die in this plane crash and we're all on borrowed time. What are we going to do with that time? And we're going to like help the world, save the world, humanity, all that stuff. Right. And so Snyder like really like literalized the borrowed time aspect of it, which for me, the anchor is always like they're adventurers, but like to him, it was like literally like they had almost like a life bar on their watch.
They were on a clock. They were on like a literal clock.
Yeah.
They had a spawn clock.
Yeah.
That was counting down to something.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, they're precursors to the Fantastic Four, because isn't Kirby on some of those books beforehand?
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
So and it's kind of like they're fighting big monsters and aliens and all that stuff. And I think from the standpoint of, if you found someone with a good enough take that embraced that and said, we shouldn't just because we're so smart in the time that we live, that there can't be all these amazing, fantastic things that they went after in the 50s. I still, to this day, rue the fact that, other than the fact that Moore left DC and there's a lot of stuff on his plate, one of the concepts that he had and one of the books that he was going to do was Challengers of the Unknown.
Frank, you just broke my heart. Oh my God, that would be so awesome.
We can commiserate together, because that's one of the ones like on his short list of like, an editor was like, well, what books do you want to do? And the other one that kills me is Martian Manhunter, because I would have killed to have him, to be able to point to an Alan Moore Martian Manhunter book. But the other one was Challenges of the Unknown. So I've always wondered what Moore would plan to do with it. But I think the idea that Moore would have taken the idea of 50s monsters and what they might have represented and turned it on its head, it would have been amazing. But we'll never know.
Yeah,
I'm also a fan. I know some people don't like the Loeb and Sale reboot, the soft reboot that didn't really go anywhere. I love it.
I was going to say it's good. So I think so. If you don't know the Challenges of the Unknown, I would the two recommendations I would say is like read New Frontier, Darwin Cook's New Frontier, because that's like its classic and one of the best versions of the Challengers when they pop up, and they're in a good amount of it.
Right.
But if you want to see also how flexible the idea can become, Loeb and Sale, it was Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale was their first collaboration together before they did Long Halloween and the stuff that they're known for, and that's really where they take the idea and really turn it on its side. In that,
what I love about it most is the fact that it's just they manage to make every one of those characters go through such a transformation, and that's really not something. It's not easy to do. A lot of times people attempt it and they get close, or some of the stuff falls flat. But with that particular miniseries, I think all the Chows, they all go through stuff, and basically they're almost completely different characters on the other side of the book, which I love.
It's a good one.
So
it's called Challengers of the Unknown Must Die.
Yeah, it's great.
It's an awesome title too. Yeah, a lot of fun. So, all right. So that's everybody's lesser known. So to wrap up then, so what's a character that we think I guess is a little oversaturated with, right? That gets a little overexposed sometimes. We could use a break a bit.
I know I'm going to get hate for this one, just because it's a beloved character that's up and coming, quite similar to Kate Bishop and your love for it. But I'm good with Squirrel Girl.
Okay.
I mean, I don't need her beating everybody upon creation in order to prove that she's a worthy person in the Marvel universe. The fact that she exists is good enough for me. It's almost like seeing, I guess, various. I'm trying to think of it's like seeing Doug Ramsey in every incarnation or every, Marvel universe group that you can imagine. I mean, I get it. I understand what she represents, but just the flower and everything is insane, just because of her love. So my vote is Squirrel Girl. Can't get for some reason can't get enough of Squirrel Girl.
Right. Okay. Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl. The name I can never say.
Yeah,
it's a tongue twister for me. Frank, you got one ready?
There's a bunch. I for one I'm already tired of the Batman who laughs.
Okay.
I thought when I first heard about it and saw the visual, I kind of thought it was kind of a cool idea. It's not a bad idea. The idea that out there in the multiverse somewhere that Batman is Jokerized and it goes that way, that's fine. I mean, even if he is kind of derivative and looks like Judge Death, that's fine too. But I just feel like that at DC for whatever reason decided they were all in on this character.
Mm-hmm.
And basically pushed all their chips in line. And I just think it was one of those things where the character, I've never had a character be as popular as that and then jump the shark as quick. And I don't really like to use the term jump the shark.
Right.
But I think to go from being this to being a Batman Joker pastiche mix up, kind of like to tie it back into what Clifton was saying earlier about the Prince video.
Yeah. All I hear is Bat Dance every time I see him.
Tie it back to that. Is the idea that suddenly he goes to some kind of universal threat. So I don't know. I mean,
okay.
I don't like crapping on people's work, but it's one of the things where if we put that character on the shelf for a while and let us forget about him, I'll be okay with it.
Right. Okay. Clifton, you got one?
I don't at the moment. I haven't been tuned in quite enough to know who's getting so used in comics and stories now. I remember some over different periods of time, like Dakin. I remember being around too much. What was that, like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Like Wolverine's son who had a claw that would come out of like the underside of his wrist because they had to keep coming up with new places for claws to come out on all of the other Wolverine clones.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
I remember him being all over the place for a time.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Dakin.
All right, we're gonna get hate mail for mine. I'm gonna say Harley Quinn.
Oh wow.
Which pains me to say because I love her character. I love Harley. She's great. I'm just like she's just everywhere, and I'm just like it's just one of those like there's nothing about it that annoys me. Nothing about it. Like there's no direction in her character that I disagree with or anything. It's just like, just give me a chance to miss her a little bit. Like, like you know what I mean?
It's okay, old man. It's all right.
Yeah, that's that crazy line from Eat, Play, Love. Oh my gosh, that's it. Interesting thing you would say. Give me a chance to miss.
Great. I haven't watched the show yet, so my opinion might change after I see the show. I will concede that. For sure. But like at the moment in comics, I'm like it's a bit overuse here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
There was definitely a point where in the last 5-6 years where, they just went, they went crazy and basically put her in everything or gave her a million miniseries in one shot. So.
Yeah.
She's in every Arkham game. Batman's not even in every Arkham game. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's funny.
Yeah.
Real quick, Zach, before we end it all totally, I just wanted to know what else was on everyone's list. At least I had a few things that I wanted to say. We don't have to go into detail or anything, but I'm curious to see what we didn't bring up or had time for real quick. So,
okay. Like, the runoff list that we didn't use. Okay. Yeah, I had one.
What'd you have, Zach?
I had Union Jack.
Ah,
really?
Yeah, I love Union Jack.
Oh, for me, it was anybody in Wildstorm and anybody that came after the Noon Teen Titans, like was it Golden Eagle, Panthera, anybody that came after that core 5 group. Yeah, exactly. They're all wiped off the face there. It's like as if after the core 7 of the Justice League, anybody who joins the group is basically dead. That's the equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah. Clifton, did you have anybody else that you wanted to?
Yeah, one of the only others I had like information on ready to go was Wrecking Crew.
Nice.
From Marvel Comics, a bunch of common criminals who gained superpowers from a magical crowbar and then just continued committing crimes with construction and hardware tool themed superpowers and weapons.
Yeah, nice.
I love them.
Another one I want to see in the MCU too. I want to see the Wrecking Crew. I want to see Union Jack too.
Sure.
Get Charlie Hunnam. Charlie Hunnam is Union Jack. That's my pick. Anyway, Frank, who's on your runoff list?
No, the only one that I had that I thought about was that I love is Hercules.
Okay.
I think Hercules is definitely one of those, as much as I enjoy, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, I think the idea of having a god that sort of is even more
full of himself.
More full of himself and more irresponsible, as Thor is, as Thor was when he first started out, and doesn't really have that moment of like, okay, I'm going to be different and better now.
Right.
I think is fun and important. I think I like the body Hercules.
Yeah.
I like the one that's cool. That's kind of a swinging dick.
Right.
Yeah.
and out there just getting in adventures. And, if you've ever seen we've talked a lot about, oddly enough, we've talked an awful lot about the Brave and the Bold cartoon, which if you haven't seen is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where if you've seen the Aquaman, the version of Aquaman they do in Brave and the Bold, that's Hercules.
Right.
Everything is just like, everything is an adventure. Everything is, larger than life, and he's larger than life in it. So
okay.
I think the idea of doing, about basically being like, you've seen gods, but this is a god unto gods basically with Hercules. So that's what I would pick for my other choice.
I did have one more also. I had a DC bad guy, Dr. Polaris. Really quick, just because he's a magnetism character, and I don't get why he's not a bigger deal. Like Magneto's huge in Marvel. I don't get why DC doesn't do more with him. Like it's a useful power.
Yeah, I thought you'd pick Lobo. To be quite honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that Lobo's not underused. Maybe not. Yeah, I like to see a Lobo movie for sure.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, so tell us in the comments your favorite little known characters that we forgot. Don't forget to suggest a topic for us while you're there. You can find links and examples to everything we talk about on letmeknowhowitis.com. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help the channel to grow. And finally, don't forget you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/letmeknowhowitis and follow us on Twitter at our show's initials, LMKHII. Thanks for listening. We will see you in a week.